Journey started when we were 17.
Okay.
But even before that, because I think it was my father who was instilling the hard work in us. And we went there and we each had $100 and we put it into the bank account.
Okay.
And we were just watching it grow, right? Whatever the time was that I finished it in. And 18 something, right?
Okay.
And I'm like, wow, I'm done. And I'm like, I was tired,
Yeah.
but it wasn't like, oh, really? I felt like I wasn't going that fast. You know?
Okay.
It was just that pace. I got the pace and I just
kept going.
Yeah.
So preparation is a big thing.
philosophy. It's not like it's rocket science.
Okay.
And
So actually getting into your building now too. So your building complex that you have, when you first got that building complex, it didn't look like how it looked now.
Like that.
So could you tell us kind of what was the process of? Oh my bad.
Nah, it's all good, man. Yeah.
Hey everybody, we are back in the building.
Yes.
It's been a while. Ori.
Yeah, I've been a ghost. We've been ghosts.
And
Man.
we've been ghosts, you know. MIA for a little bit. We had we were moving, in the process of moving. I know we talked about that in the last kind of recap of episode.
Yeah.
We were moving a lot, so we kind of had to deal with that. And then just in terms of getting guests and getting things prepared and stuff, so we took a little bit of a hiatus, but we are back, and we are back with a vengeance.
Yes, sir.
So, I wanted to take. Can we do that again? Because I want to take this off.
Take this off. Now you can transition.
I can just have to transition when I transition.
Okay.
Okay. Keep it in the video, no edits. So before we get into anything,
Yes.
what do we always do first?
Let's give thanks to the big man up there.
We gotta give thanks to the big man upstairs. So before we even get started into our episode or anything like that, we're gonna give thanks to God, just for protecting us, keeping us safe. I got into an accident the other day. I was safe, you know.
Which other day? Was it the one before? Was it after?
There's two. There's two.
This
But
you got into an accident on your birthday.
on my birthday.
And then you got into
And the other one was before my birthday. It was before that one.
Bro, what the?
And I just fixed the car. So
Did you have another one after you fixed it, or it's been?
no, my car broke down after I fixed it.
After you fixed it?
Yeah, on my way to work, but I got to fix it again. So it's okay.
So you're good now?
I'm all good now.
Okay.
We have to recoup now. We got to make sure we go to work every day now, because you can't miss any more paychecks now. So we got to do that. But thank God for protecting me in that, keeping me safe. Actually, it's funny now that I think about it. The day that I got into that accident, I was going to go meet our guest. Yeah. Actually, now that I think about it, I was going to go meet our guest.
Yeah.
But that's besides the point. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. But no, it's gotta give that God thanks. Thank him for Ori, for our guest, being able to come here, keeping us throughout the week, keeping us safe at work, our families, for our listeners. So we just want to make sure that we give God thanks first and foremost, no matter what.
100%.
Now, I mean, going into it. So, guys, I'm gonna give you a little bit of the behind the scenes right now. Okay, this is unfiltered. Like, you're not even supposed to know this.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna tell you. So, me and my main man Ori right now, we had a little meeting, you know. We had a meeting about the podcast, and we discussed the dynamic, right?
Yeah.
And so we discussed the dynamic, and we're like, okay, it's not that I can't grow hair, right? It's not that I can't grow hair, but it's just because of the dynamic that we have, you know? One guy should have hair and one guy shouldn't have hair, you know? Because we got to appeal to the listeners who have hair and the listeners who don't have hair. You know what I mean?
He can't grow.
No, we got to appeal to both listeners.
He just can't grow.
So I just wanted to let you guys know that, yes, we always say I'm the bald man, but it's not that I'm bald, but we're embracing it right now.
I mean, for real, like, have you guys not seen me like in the video, like zooming in into?
Listen. Those were. He knows Photoshop. He knows it well.
No,
so you know that's what he did. But it's part of our dynamic. You know what I mean? So right now we're gonna do a little reveal right now. You know, as the bald man right now, that's the dynamic that I was okay with going with, just because I know that I can grow hair anytime I want. Right? So you know. But I won't lie. It's actually it's I've been running faster. I've been able to move faster with the less hair and stuff. Now it's been going really well. So
You know, people would defend they can't grow something, or they don't grow. People would defend something. Usually, people that can't do it. If you've noticed, so like
I don't know that
yeah,
example.
so like you're defending like you can grow hair, but like you really can't, bro.
Well, I mean,
Should
clearly.
Okay, fine. You know what? Should we try something? So today is
No. Listen. It's gonna ruin our dynamic. Listen, we have Ori hair. He has the hair, the short hair.
Yeah.
And I have the bald head. This is our dynamic. This is why we go like this.
I'll let him sell it.
So every time you guys see me without hair,
Yeah.
it's because of our dynamic. It's not, you might see me outside of the podcast with a lot of hair. So just letting you guys know, don't get caught off guard.
That's a lie, man. Like, don't believe him. No. As a bald man, anytime, any day. I got the pictures. Don't worry.
No, those the Photoshop. I keep telling you guys.
I got the pictures. Don't worry.
But today.
Yes.
We have a very special guest today.
Yes.
Like I was saying, actually, when I got into that accident, I was heading to go meet this guest. And this guest actually, me and Ori kind of both know him through a similar experience. We were both looking as we were moving.
Mm-hmm.
We were both looked at. He owns a rental property, a building complex, and so we actually went there to go look at some of the properties to rent.
Mm-hmm.
And we didn't end up going with them, but the relationship stayed, and that's going to be a big theme that I think comes across through this interview is the importance of relationships.
Yes.
And so today our guest is, like I said, he's been involved in real estate from a very early age, building until he has amassed and built a building complex, owning a building complex that's been featured in CBC News. He did some great renovations to that building that we're going to get into. He is also a third class power engineer, parts A and B. Engineer, as well as a safety consultant, has a safety consulting business, and provides those services as well. So, without further ado, today we are going to introduce Vince Carnovale. Off the stage. Yes, sir. How's it going, Vince?
Very good. Thank you very much. Thanks for having me on this.
Oh, no problem. So, we're gonna get right into it. I know this is Vince's first episode, but we're gonna be good.
Yeah, we're gonna do it. Yeah.
So, Vince, how did everything start? Where did everything start growing up? Take us back to the beginning.
To the beginning. Okay, so I have I come from a big family, I guess. There was four kids. So I have two older sisters. My oldest sister is quite a bit older than us.
Okay.
And then I also have a twin brother.
Oh, really?
So I think the twin brother thing did help a lot because we did a lot of these things, this real estate, we did it together.
Okay.
We pretty well did everything together.
Okay.
And so this journey started when we were 17.
Okay.
But even before that, because I think it was my father who was instilling the hard work in us and how, like a big project you can't get done in a day. Like Rome wasn't built in a day, right?
100%.
You have to actually do those little steps first to get the knowledge to do the next thing, right? So my dad kind of helped us along the way, and he showed us the ropes. And our first house, we were 17, so obviously we couldn't buy it on our own. So my dad was the bank for us, and he showed us through it. And once we did our first property, then we were hooked.
Okay.
And then I'll go into all the. We had trials and tribulations the whole way through.
The whole way through.
Yeah.
So even before that, where are you from originally?
So I was born and raised in Edmonton.
Okay.
But my family's from Italy.
Okay.
And so they immigrated here I think my dad immigrated in the mid 60s, and then my mom came afterwards.
Okay.
But they met actually in Toronto.
Okay.
And they came to Edmonton to live here because, you go where your family is.
Yes.
It's I think a common theme in your other episodes.
Yes.
So you try to stick family together. And when I was young growing up, that was a big part of my life is family, right? So every weekend it was us and the kids, and all my cousins. And we'd go to like one aunt's house, aunt and uncle, and there'd be like kids everywhere, and we'd stay up until 3-4 in the morning, and then the next weekend someone else would host, and it was, we'd have even bigger parties at Christmas time, and there was always a party every weekend, and it felt weird if we didn't do something on the weekend, and there was some weekends like that.
No, we didn't do. Yeah, you didn't do anything.
It was never a dull moment growing up, camping and
everything.
So those are my good memories from when I was young.
And so you guys were in Edmonton the whole time while you were growing up.
Yeah.
School, everything like that was in Edmonton.
Always in Edmonton, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, some school you had to go abroad to, it was still kind of in Alberta.
Okay.
So nothing crazy.
Okay. And so what, how did things kind of progress? Like after high school and into university, how did things progress? Like what did you start to do?
So when we bought our first property when we were 17, me and my brother, and my dad was kind of pushing us in that direction. But before that, my dad was trying to instill hard work in us. So I think we started working when we were 9. We had our first bank account at Royal Bank of Canada.
Right. Okay.
It was down the street from our house, and my dad, I remember we went there and we each had $100 and we put it into the bank account.
Okay.
And we were just watching it grow, right? And so we were like always interested. Oh yeah, we got to work hard and do something, and save some more money. And so we were always cutting the neighbor's grass, shoveling the neighbor's snow, like all the neighbors. We do the whole block.
Okay.
And we were always like very industrious in that sense.
Entrepreneurial too.
Oh yeah, so we would always start we would have garage sales and like sell stuff at our garage sales and it was, we did pretty well, right? And then when we started getting a little bit older, my dad was planting in our head that, you guys should get into real estate because that's kind of where it is. And he's always had like rental properties, not apartment buildings, but rental properties. And he understood the importance of, if you want to build wealth, you got to have property, right? And so he was kind of pushing us in that direction. And, when you got a couple $100 and then it grows to maybe a few $1,000s and then, you're a child still, right? He kind of gave us like an ultimatum. He said to my sisters and to me and my brother, he says, you know what? He goes, I'm going to give you guys 2 options. He goes, you can save up all your money, and when you turn 18, I'll double it. Or every dollar you earn, and only if you earn it, I will double that. You have to put it in the bank, and but you cannot touch it until you're 18. Right? So me and my brother went, we'll put because we saw the money growing, right? We're like, can you imagine we'd have twice as much, right? Right now, we were like, okay, let's do that instead. So we were like, we want to do that. My sisters kind of choose other route because they wanted to spend their money and have fun and stuff. And we were having fun too, but we did it in a more controlled way, right?
Okay.
So it was it almost taught us how to do our finances, right? How to be financially smart, like you can spend, but spend within your means. That's basically, I think, the lesson my dad was trying to teach us.
Okay. And so you guys had a pretty entrepreneurial mindset from the beginning. You guys were out here mowing lawns, shoveling snow, and doing all these different things. Was that something that you had originally instilled in you, or was that kind of through your father's influence that kind of really helped you with that?
I think coming from the Italian background, and our parents being immigrants, it was working hard. It was everything they did was about working hard, and they always did, right? They sacrificed a lot to come here. I think my dad originally didn't want to come to Canada. He had a really good job in Italy, and he was young, and the weather's better. My grandmother made him come, because all the rest of his family was here, right? Okay. So that's why he came, and so you come here, even though you don't have, now you got to start from scratch, right? So he was a bricklayer, and doing cook and that kind of stuff. His main craft was laying bricks.
Okay.
And he came really good at it. And that was one of the things that he had to do, and he broke his back doing it. Not breaking it, but he hurt his back. And you can't do that forever because it's a very physical job,
type
right?
of job.
It pays well, but it's physical. And so my dad, I remember when we were working, he'd make us work hard no matter what we were doing, but he'd always show us his pail of tools. Because when we were growing up, my dad didn't have to work anymore. Because he hurt his back, so he was done, right?
Yeah.
And he was 45, so at a young age, we always had our dad around. And so he would always show us his pail. These are the tools. I'll give you these tools if you don't want to go to school. If you don't want to learn, or you don't want to do good in school. He said, these will be yours. I'll give them to you, right? And it wasn't like a thing we wanted. Oh yeah, I'll take your tools.
Yeah.
No, it's something. It was a bad thing, right?
Okay.
And that's how we saw it, anyways. And we weren't really the best at school.
Okay.
Me and my brother, right?
Okay.
We struggled, you know. I mean, my parents spoke Italian. English was their second language. So going to school, you already got the disadvantage of not having English as your first language, and like we still knew English and understood it and stuff. But you know, school was always a struggle, especially English.
English, yeah.
So we struggled. I struggled with school until I'd say it was grade 4.
Okay.
You know, and then eventually
You started.
I still wasn't an A student.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, we struggled to get the good grades.
See, so okay, well that's gonna be an interesting piece for when we get a little bit later on.
Yes.
From those struggles that you had even at a young early age, how you were able to change that later on.
Yeah.
Right.
And failure is a big thing too.
And failure is a big thing.
So me, my brother, and a couple of our closest friends, we all failed grade 1 together, which they don't do anymore.
Yeah.
But I think it was a good thing for us, right? You know, that failure kind of sucks, but I remember that summer, like we ended up going. I think we went to Italy as a vacation for our family.
Yeah.
And I remember coming like, oh yeah, we're Italy, and then I'll forget about this, and then you come back, and then you're like, oh, all your friends
are in the next grade. And
but there's a few of you still left behind, so those are actually my closest friends now.
Yeah.
Because you built the connection with them, right? And and to this day, I still call my friends that we failed with together, and we're all successful people now.
Yeah.
We're not like left behind and took a different route, right? We just needed that extra bit of help and kind of almost like a slap to wake up slap. Because I think that's a cool thing. Actually, my little brother would like that. Yeah.
Is that even sometimes when you're doing not so well in school, even at an early age, that doesn't define what you're going to be later, right?
No, it doesn't.
And how did you? I mean, at that time when that happened, did you know that wouldn't define you, or was it like, yo, man, I failed this class. This is like the end of it now. What was your?
I felt, you know what? Like in grade 1, I was defeated, right? And you don't know it when you're there, but you're like, oh, I don't want to be this, and I still struggled.
Yeah.
But I tried way harder to pass, and then we passed. It wasn't like we didn't have the best grades, but at least we passed, and then that was like that confidence built. Okay, I can make it. We can do this.
And then just continue from there. Just continue to progress. Yeah. Okay.
And then before you know it, you're decent. You find what you like, and that's why I did better in post-secondary because I was pursuing something that I enjoyed.
That you enjoyed. And
one of those things was the mathematics. That's why I ended up becoming the engineer.
Okay.
And I think a lot of engineers aren't really good at the English anyways.
Okay.
So it worked out.
Okay.
In that sense.
And so okay. Now speaking of engineering, how did you kind of get involved in engineering? What kind of led you to that field?
I always wanted to do you do those aptitude tests, and you do those I can't remember what they call them, but like you see your grade coordinator and your counselors at school, and then you do all these tests to see what you should go into, right? And one of the things is I knew I could never do is I could never like sit at a desk all day long every single day.
Yeah.
Because and even to this day I can't do it, because if I sit for too long, my back will start to hurt. And I'll start getting hurting. So I always have to get up, go to the gym, or keep moving. And so health became fitness became a big thing for me.
Okay.
And the thing is, when I do things, I push myself too hard to the point where you injure yourself. Not as much as David Goggins.
Yeah. He's going to the max.
But I've run a 5-kilometer race.
Okay.
And without training, without the proper shoes, and I never ran a race. It was my first one. I was in my early 20s.
Okay.
And the only reason I did it was because there was somebody at the gym who was a runner, and he saw me running on the trail. He's like, you're going pretty quick on there. Yeah. And I'm like, I was only doing it for my health. I was like, well, I'm just trying to. I had a cough that was lingering, so I'm like, I'm just gonna get this cough out of me, right? And I was just running, and I'd run hard, and then I would keep the incline would be maxed out, and the speed would be not, pretty close to being maxed out.
Okay.
And I'd hold that and this guy's like, how are you doing this, right? And so I wasn't like in it to win a race or anything like that. He's like, you should try this 5K. It's a fun run. I'm like, okay, I'll give it a shot. So that night, I remember I'm like, hey, what's the route? So I took the route. And I ran it. And
so you ran it before?
I ran the race
beforehand?
Yeah, beforehand. I wanted to see if I could do it, right? And what kind of time I'd get.
Okay.
And I did it. I'm like, okay. I did it in under 20 minutes, 5 kilometers, which is a pretty good time. I was happy with it. And then I think it was a couple days later was race day, and I had shin splints, I had like heel spurs, you know, I was like, I didn't have a good sleep, you know, and so I ran this race, and not only did I beat it, and I went to the board, you know, it was at the YMCA at Castle Downs, and I looked at, okay, who had the best time ever, and I looked, I'm like, I might come close to that time. I can't remember the time, but I'm like, I might do it.
Yeah.
And it was like 20 minutes something. I'm like, and then in my practice run, I'm like, I beat it, right?
Yeah.
On my practice
So you're like,
run.
oh, okay, I can do it for sure.
So I could probably do it. So racing is a little different because you're going to push yourself harder, right? So I remember once the gun went off, I started running. Like, I'm like, first I was like, run. I'm like, oh, you know, and then I'm like, you know what? I already did this before. I don't need to like give her the whole way. I'm just going to run at my own pace.
Yeah.
So I kind of led the pack.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, I just hit my pace and I kept going. And I didn't stop. I was just thinking, right? And then there's all the marshals along the way. And then they looked at their watch when I was like at the end, like the last couple of marshals. They're like, what? You know, this guy's going like mad.
Yeah.
And then they're like, wow. And then they're like cheering me on. And then I just happened to look back and there was nobody. Like there's nobody behind me.
Oh, wow.
So it just got the second wind, and from that point, the last marshal, I just ran, and I won, obviously, and then I beat the record.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I think I held the record for about 2 years or 1 or 2 years.
Oh, wow.
But because another kid came after me and beat me, he destroyed me. He did it in like 15 minutes or something.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow.
So it was fun, and and I think I even put that on my resume as one of my accomplishments, right? So all those little accomplishments always lead to like that. You know, you have to have confidence when you're doing anything. You're in business, when you're in sales, it's confidence that will lead you that client. I got some really big, I think I've told you before, I've gotten some really awesome clients, big clients. Like, how did you land that client? You know, and it was my story. I tell them my story, and they liked it, and they were impressed with what I did and what I could do, and see my confidence, and then
go from there.
Yeah.
So, but that confidence stems from you doing those things. So imagine you did that race and you didn't win. Would you still have had that confidence?
You know what? I probably would have still.
Okay.
Because I did another race. I did a half marathon.
Okay.
Like more recently. And again, I wasn't feeling well on the day that I was doing it. And I didn't win at all. Not even close. I got like 138th place or something like that. But it was a big run. There was a lot of people in it, and I was happy with my time, right? Because I wanted to get under 40 minutes, and I did just a little bit under the 40-minute mark, and I was happy with that.
Okay.
So I did build confidence. Like, oh, I still got it, you know.
And
I was in pain, and I remember coming home. I was hobbling for a couple of days after that. And but like that's why what David does is on another level. Like
well, no, what he does is
it's not like
crazy.
Only a half marathon. And imagine running it, and I'm thinking, well, that's only half marathon, and I think, oh, go back and do it again, and then you're at the full marathon, and I don't think I could have done it, not even after training and
everything.
You know, and I'm built like a runner, kind of, especially at that time.
Okay, and so in the time when you ran the 5K, what was there any part in the race where it was like a little bit difficult for you to keep pushing, or is it just like it was just easy? Or was there a part where you felt a little bit of resistance?
I did at the very beginning.
Okay.
Because I was like second guessing myself, and I was like trying to like, I was in a competition with myself, and then once I realized, I'm like, wait, I've done this before. Just get in the zone and just do. And then I was focused. Once I was focused, then that was it.
That was it.
I didn't even know that I was winning. I didn't even know where I was in the pack.
Just kind of lost sense of time.
I got focused, and then before I knew it, I'm like, oh, it's been 20 minutes or 18 minutes or whatever the time was that I finished it in, and 18 something, right?
Okay.
And I'm like, wow, I'm done. And I'm like, I was tired, but it wasn't like, oh, really? I felt like I wasn't going that fast. You know?
Okay.
It was just that pace. I got the pace, and I just
kept going.
Yeah.
So preparation is a big thing. Even not only in races, but like in life.
In life, yeah.
I think if you prepare, even if you don't do it as well, I think if you prepare, then it makes everything easier. You have the confidence to do it. If I've talked to a couple of girls or whatever like that, when I go talk to that next girl, when I go out there, because I've talked to a couple of girls before, I'm a little bit more prepared than as if I didn't talk to any girls before.
Yeah.
Right. So
getting shut down is
getting shut down is not. Yeah, getting shut
because if
down.
that's how you like. The more you get shut down, like for instance, me, I showed you my property, right? And I showed it to many people, and I get a lot of shutdowns, right? A lot of people that don't show up, and it's a constant part of doing business, right? It doesn't matter how good you are; you're never going to make a sale on the first time. You have to keep at it, right? You know, my mentor, he was one of my mentors. I have lots of them. I have mentors for different things, like I have a couple in real estate, and have my dad was a mentor in my life and still is, and like I have a person who actually helped me with the renos at my building.
Okay.
He's like a more of a spiritual mentor and like kind of like a big brother almost to
Okay.
like, kick you in the butt and give you ideas and tell you what you're doing wrong, or even what you're doing right. So I got all these mentors that tell me these things, and sometimes I don't listen to them, and sometimes I do, and sometimes I'm right, and sometimes I'm teaching them things, right?
Yep.
So it's we work together, right? And so that's kind of where that is.
So I want to go back into how you started your career in power engineering.
Okay.
I want to know, like, what were the steps that you kind of took, and kind of tell me the process of that story, because we talked about it a little bit outside of the podcast. But I want you to tell me, how did that journey? How did it start? Because you have a lot of different cool things that kind of happen along the way.
The way there, okay.
So I want you to tell me how you started in power engineering. What was the process, and kind of how you move forward in power engineering?
So I had the math, right?
Okay.
But I didn't take physics when I was in high school. I ended up taking the biology. I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I took the bio and the chemistry. I did not like chemistry. It wasn't my forte. But I never even knew that I would have enjoyed physics, even though I liked math so much. So when I graduated, I didn't have physics, and one of the prerequisites for the course was physics. So they're like, so I applied to get into power engineering school, and I was denied, right? Because I didn't have all the prerequisites for it. But I didn't like stop there, right? I kept going. I'm like, okay, so what do I got to do? There'd be something I can do, right? People do this all the time, and they're like, well, yeah, you can take this summer course. It was like, it was before the school season started, and I'm like, okay, what is it? And it was a pre-engineering physics course. And so it was basically physics and condensed down into like over the summer, like I think it was over 3 months.
Okay.
So I'm like, okay, I'll do this. It was like, you go there every day, and made friends in that class, and I did really well. It was like, I was getting 90s and stuff like that. Whereas I wasn't used to that going like through high school, but I actually enjoyed it, and I found it very interesting. So, and I think doing it all like condensed that way, it was a good way to learn for me, right? Immersing myself in it and just going hard, and ended up doing really well. And so I passed the course, and then I went back, I applied for it, and I got in the next semester. So that's how I got into the program. Okay. So I did the power engineering technology. I started doing that. And then after my first year, and it was not that is definitely not an easy course to do. Like it's a heavy math, like it's very technical. So the easiest course would have been a communication course. Okay. We're all engineers. We're not really good at English. Okay. And that's one of the things that industry kind of was stressing on, is we're horrible spellers. We're horrible at readers, but we're awesome at following directions, at like designing things, at doing making things easier and work better. So but they just wanted us to do better on the computers. Right?
Okay.
And so that was probably the easiest course. We didn't even call it English. It was called communications. Okay. And if you think, you go to university and you don't think of doing spelling tests, right? As part of your curriculum. Yeah. But as engineers, we were doing spelling tests. Okay. And there were grade 6 words we were spelling. So, I was okay. I wasn't the worst speller. Yeah. But I'm still not the best. I'm always asking my wife, how do you spell this? And can you proofread that? All my important emails, I get her to proofread. Yeah. So I got into that. We did the engineering, did my first year. Okay. And then I ended up getting a job. I didn't even finish the technology. I ended up getting a job as a power engineer because we had a special right that we can write our full part, our fourth class. We didn't have to get work experience because we
Okay.
did a lab as part of the course.
Okay.
So I went and I did the exam, passed it, and I was so happy. I got my 4th class. I was a real engineer finally, right? And I ended up, I just kind of threw my, we had to do a practicum over the summer. Did that, and then I kind of just threw some resumes out. Maybe, who knows? Ended up getting a job downtown, working for Oxford Properties.
Okay.
As one of their engineers.
Okay.
Managing their boilers and all their equipment, and so I took it. I'm like, that's a decent job, right? I'll start with that, and then I'll just work towards getting my 3rd class the old-fashioned way instead of writing the exam. Like I wrote the exams at school, the part A, because I didn't have to have any work experience to write my A.
Okay.
But the B you do need.
So,
But
so what's the difference between the A and the B in terms of and the classes? Are there different classes like first
there's
class?
difficult. Yeah, so it goes up to 1st class. Starts at 5th. And
Okay.
It goes up to 1st.
Okay, so what is the difference between the classes of engineering?
So they get harder as you go.
Okay.
1st class is basically what kind of plant you can run. So each of these plants are rated.
Already. Okay.
Like a kilowatt hour.
Okay.
Plant. So like for instance, Labatt Breweries would be like a 2nd class plant.
Okay.
The way their steam surface areas and all that stuff.
Okay.
So when you get, if you have your 2nd, then you can be the chief engineer of the plant with the 2nd. So by law, there always has to be someone on the roster that has that designation. They have to be there for so many hours and oversee the work on the boilers, right? So they would become the chief engineer.
Okay.
And then the guys working under them can be one step below, like a 3rd class, for instance. Like that's what I was.
Okay.
And then there's temporary 2nds you can get, and I've had my temporary 2nd for a while, but you have to be working towards your 2nd to do that. And I just, we'll get into that later. How I did the career change because of my realization that this is fun. I like doing it, but it wasn't what I need. I was done with it, right? And so I ended up taking that job as a power engineer at Oxford Properties.
Okay.
And then I wanted to do more, right? I'm like, okay, I want to get my 3rd. I want to, I had ambitions to get my 1st.
Yes.
Every power engineer is going into this in the technology, especially. Everyone wants to become a 1st. Easier said than done, right?
Yeah.
But many people do it, right?
Yes.
So my journey went a little bit differently. So at that point, I was already in real estate. I was always, since I was 17. So at this point, we got some real estate. Me and my brother, we did at that point like 4 or 5 different properties.
Okay.
And we were kind of getting ready to sell them all, right? But we weren't there yet. So we just owned these rental properties. We kept them, and they were cash flow, and everything was good. And we kind of concentrated more on our work and our careers and stuff, more so than our real estate. So the real estate kind of took a back seat to what we were doing.
Okay.
So while I was pursuing my career as a power engineer, I'm like, I got to get into one of these bigger plants, like a chemical plant or
Okay.
And so I put the feelers out. I'd be talking to people and asking, how can I get in doing this power engineering that I want to do? And one of my coworkers is like, my dad works at this place, and she's like, I think you would fit in there. That you would, because they always look for leaders, right? And they're like, you would do it. I think you would fit in. It would be awesome. And she's like, and they're hiring. You should put your resume in. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do that. So I got as much information as I could from her, and I looked at what they wanted, and I put my resume together, put it in, and they called me. So it was like their hiring process is very unique and different.
Yeah.
Their plant is actually, all the engineers are the day staff as well.
Okay.
So like all the person that does the accounting isn't a power engineer. The person that does the procuring is the power engineer.
Okay.
So they want people that have, the ability to do multitasking, different kind of different skills, right?
Yeah.
And they do push you. So that their hiring process was basically a NASA hiring process.
Okay.
So they put you in a room and they want to test your aptitude. They want to test you under stress and see how you perform and see if you're a leader and how you can control, if you can control a group and that kind of thing. And I knew kind of what they were looking for, right? And like people put their guard down when it's mealtime. This is one of the things. And mealtime is when they're watching you the most. They want to see what you're saying.
Oh.
That's when they're learning the most about you as a person, right? Are you, do you have etiquette? Are you like salting simple things like, are you salting your food before you taste it? Because then it like, oh, your character is that you would do things before you would like, you wouldn't do it in a systematic way. They're looking for a certain kind of person, and they're learning the most about you while they're testing you, but they're also watching you.
Yes.
And seeing how you're working in a group, and they give you a problem, and it's a space problem, right? You're in space, and you got to get off the moon or whatever, and you got all these things, and they say, what would you do? And they're not looking for the right answer, they're looking for how you got to the answer. And so by knowing that, it helped me get in, right? Although I was still taking night classes, and it worked out actually. When I was taking the night class, serendipitously, the people that were in the class, there was some people that worked at that same place. So when I was going to school, I was like getting intel from those guys. And then it turned out some of them were actually on the hiring team.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, I've already got an in. These
got a
guys
little
know
bit
me.
of in, yeah.
They know my character. They even see me how I am in school. So I was like really pushing my way in. And I'm like, okay, this is going to be really good. So that was probably the hardest interview process I've ever gone through. And it was like over a span of weeks.
A span of weeks, yeah.
And the worst day was the day, or the worst day was the day they're doing all of our testing, and they're like putting you in like groups and doing the group work.
Because you were telling me when we were talking about it, you were telling me that there's a whole bunch of different groups, and they only hire, I think.
So there's about 1,500 people that I think applied for this position,
Yeah.
and they were only going to accept four of them,
yeah.
I believe.
Yeah.
And then they were going to put a short list together, and to see if they didn't make that first four.
That first four, yeah.
And so, then the final interview, they put you in front of a panel, and then normally in interviews, they don't really ask you a lot of technical questions.
Yeah.
But this last one they did. And I'm like, as a student, and I'm like, it's still, it's nerve-wracking. It's like, oh, I'm not really sure I have the confidence to answer all these questions, but I did my best, and I did actually pretty well. And afterwards, when I asked them, and they said, yeah, you did good. And even in the scoring on the test, you were like extremely balanced, and with the way you were. And I think part of that might have been because I kind of had that intel, right? I was digging from everywhere and trying to find, and they might have been like marking me more leniently because they might have been wanting me because they already knew my character, and they wanted me to be part of their team. So after doing that, I didn't get the job originally. So the first four, I didn't get that cut, but I was still in school, and they were looking for people that had their third. And I had my fourth, and I was working towards getting my third. I had my part A, but not the B part. And the B part, I needed experience to do that.
To do that part. Okay.
So then I'm like, they called me. They're like, yeah, you did really well in the interview. We put you on the short list though. And they were like, well, basically because you're still in school, right? I'm like, okay, that's fair enough. I didn't feel so bad. It was a win, but I still kind of felt a little defeated because I didn't get the job yet.
Yeah.
But I didn't stop there, right? I kept
Keep
pursuing
pushing,
this, and I said, okay, you know what? So I called my friend, or I talked to my friend's dad, and I'm like, so, I hear I'm on the short list, right? And he's like, yeah, you're on the short list. I'm like, can you tell me what number I'm on? What number I am? He's like, yeah, I'll tell you. He goes, you're number 1 on the short list. I'm like, okay. He's like, so you did really well. He goes, they're gonna call you when there's an opening. It's your job. You can get. I'm like, I was so excited, especially being number 1 on the list. I'm like, I felt like it was another win, even though I didn't win.
Yeah.
And then so I went home, and I'm thinking, how can I get into this place before there's even that position that opens up?
That opens up, yeah.
And I'm like, okay, well, I'll go around, and I wanted to write my B. So I go around. I'm like, okay. I went to all the places I've worked, and I started getting all their the serial numbers off their boilers, and the A numbers, right? So I can figure out how much surface area was on them to see if I was qualified. Maybe I did have the qualification or the hours.
Okay.
And when I added, I was short. So I'm like, still, I need more work experience. I got to figure out a way. So I was still working downtown. I'm like, well, this is gonna take me forever working with these little boilers to get enough steam time to write this exam. So I said, I'm like, I'm gonna call that company and see if they'll let me work there for free, and then my foot's in there, and I can get my they can learn who I am and like, see what it's like. And I'm like, okay. So I called them up.
So sorry, this is the same company that
I'm on the short list.
That you're shortlist on. Okay.
I'm on the short list. So I'm like, I call them up and I kind of tell them, I'm like, hey, I'm trying to write my third. And I knew they're looking for thirds. They want people to write there because one of the problems is they'll get people to have their fourths, but they don't continue on to get the third, right?
Okay.
And they were a second class plant and they needed thirds and they were short on thirds. And it was a problem for them. And I knew this was a problem. So I used, okay, you have an opportunity. I'm going to help you solve it. This is where the business mind comes in, right? I'm going to say, hey, look, they knew that I knew I was on the short list. They didn't know that I knew I was number one on it. Right?
Yeah.
So, but I'm like, I go in, I'm like, okay, I'm writing my third and I just finished my courses, but I need hours to write my exam. So it's in their best interest to let me work for them to get those hours so that I could write the exam and then get my third class and then it's turnkey for them when it's time, right? So I kind of plugged that into their ear and they're like, oh, you know what? And they smiled at me. They're like, that is an ingenious idea. We're going to talk about it and we'll get back to you. 3 days later, they call me. They're like, yeah, you know what? You're going to get your hours. We're going to help you with that. And you're not working for free. We're going to pay you to do it. And they paid me well. And I think it was really good money. I'm like, wow, it was like winning the lottery. And they're like, and when do you want to start? So I'm like, okay, I'll start right away, right? And so I was immersed in it. I was doing shift work. I was,
So basically, they basically hired you. They basically hired you.
I was hired on, and I was doing my hours. And here, serendipity comes into it. Actually, in multifaceted, like in both areas of my life, in the real estate and in the engineering part. So in the real estate part, we were doing just houses, single family homes, me and my brother, but we were ready to move on to the next step, which was commercial, right?
So question, just before you get to that.
Yeah.
One thing. So you, in that opportunity that you had before, they did say, it's almost like they said no, but you were able to create an opportunity for yourself.
There's wins for me and wins for them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So how do you do that? How can you create in any situation that you're in? How can you kind of create a win-win for not only you but for the other person?
To create a win-win, well, you have to see what people need, right? So like people like have wants and needs, and there's opportunities. Everyone, like a company might have, you might think, oh, you need a welder, but no, you don't need a welder. What you need is someone that can like, put pipe together and see it through to the end of the job, not just weld it, you know, because the guy that just welding, he doesn't know how to put it together, right? So you got to see, maybe it's not what you think they need, right? So you got to try to find out what they need, what their opportunity is. Okay. And then if you have that skill, you can grow that skill and then push yourself into that, right?
Into that realm. Okay.
So that's one thing you could do.
Okay.
But yeah, back to the story of, how this ties into real estate again. And my life was always tied around real estate. One of the things I had to do, they're like, you're not going to be working for us. We're not paying you. So it's going to be like through a subcontractor that we hire, like a headhunter. And I'm like, okay, yeah, no problem. So I'm like, okay, they sent me over there and to go do all the paperwork. So he hired me on. He was, going to be the one that paid me and recording all my hours and stuff like that. And the company was Carey Industrial Services, and they were based out of Fort Saskatchewan. And so I'd go there and filled out all my paperwork, and this will make more sense afterwards when we get into the real estate thing. And didn't think anything of it. At the end, I was put in my timesheets, send it over to him, and then I get paid. At the end of my so many hours I had to do, I had my hours to write my third. It was like, oh, you know what? Now what am I going to do, right? But there was friends that I made inside like the company, right? And there was one guy from a different team. He was working opposite, but there was that one night he was working on our team. So I'm like, he comes, sits down with me. He's like, hey, Vinny. He's like, how do you like working here? I'm like, I love it here. It's like, I'm excited to come into work and like, I'm doing what I went to school for and I'm learning lots of stuff as I go. And he's like, well, do you want to work here permanently? And I'm like, yeah, of course I do. He's like, do you want my job? And I'm like, what do you mean? What are you saying? He's like, they're going to give you my job if you want it. Yeah. Because I'm leaving. He goes, I got a job. working at Suncor. He was going to make ridiculous money. And so it was a win for him because he was moving on.
Yeah.
And it was a win for the company because they weren't going to be short. You know, they had someone
They had someone else who was going to fill the position.
And it was his last day would have been my last day.
Oh, wow.
So it was like,
Oh, wow.
I remember going, we all, as a team, we went out to we went to some pub. I can't remember which one it was. And we just partied it up all night long. He was excited. I was excited. Everyone was like, we all won the lottery. And then I started the job.
Yeah.
And it worked. And I did that for about 3 years. And then that's where I got my third class engineering. I ended up learning all their areas.
Yeah.
And except for one, which was an area I didn't even want to learn. Basically because it was dirty. It was a filthy area. It was like, and it was more of a dangerous area with solvents and stuff. And I'm like, I don't want to breathe that in.
Yeah.
So, but I was proficient in all the areas, and I had I was going to pick a day job, which was going to be in laboratory. Like I ended up liking working in the lab. So even though I didn't like chemistry, I kind of had this affinity to work in the lab. So I was going to start doing that, and then the real estate was pushing me now. So I've gotten some, I did my industrial firefighting through them, and I was on their fire team and all that. So I got a lot of work experience from them, and it was in a short period of time, like 3 or 4 years.
So question, in that period of time, were there any obstacles or struggles in the process of doing engineering?
Absolutely. So remember how before I said the place was, they want leaders. So you got a room full of leaders and everyone fighting to be in the lead, right? So at first when you're starting, it's not, you're like, I don't want to be in the lead because I'm still learning. I'm new. I'm the youngest one on the team. But as you progress, you're expected to have more responsibilities, know more. Yeah. And so you're pushed in a different direction, right? So you have to take that role, and you want to, right? In the end, right? That's the kind of like the progression. But when you're always butting heads with other people who are also leaders. So in my opinion, working in a place where everyone's a leader isn't good because you got all these leaders trying to lead and everyone's going into different directions and everyone's not on the same page, right? You need one leader to lead and then the other people to like, not to be the followers. I don't want to say followers, but to like fulfill the role that they're meant to do in the process, right?
Yeah.
And so that was one of the biggest challenges I had there.
Yeah.
So I quickly learned that with some of the people our dynamic didn't work on some of the teams.
Yeah.
And there was conflicts.
Yeah.
And to the point where, being an engineer and, working was mainly it's mainly men in that field, right?
Yeah.
No, but there's still women in that field too, right? And, it was more of an aggression kind of thing. Like you lose your temper, and things kind of go sideways, right? And so there's fighting that's happening, like with not just me, but with other people, and you don't get along with certain people. So the learnings from that was, they don't want to let anybody go, right?
Yeah.
They put a lot into me, right? I learned a lot. I was very proficient at what I was doing there. Just didn't get along with some of these people, right? We just didn't jive. Yeah. Which is going to happen everywhere you go.
Yeah. 100%.
And so what I did was, what they did, they wanted me to seek help, and so did he, and we had to talk to a shrink or whatever you want to call them, and tell them our story, right? And it was weird when I was telling my story, like real estate was part of it, right? And he kept pushing me. He's like, he goes, you're really doing really good in the real estate. You should push that more, right? And I'm like, I'm looking at him sideways. I'm like, what are you saying, man? I don't want to leave what I've done here. Like I put a lot of effort into this. But he was right, in the end. And then afterwards, I thought about it, and I thought of him. He goes, you know what? That's just kind of my own opinion, right? Because I don't know if they were trying to, maybe he said that to try to get me out. They didn't want me no more.
They want you to work to try to plant the seed.
And also maybe that was an opportunity of mine to improve on, anger issues and, and going through all my other engineering jobs, because we're not sensitive, as engineers. I'm not anyways. And so I did find myself in sensitivity training more than once, right? And maybe that's just an engineering thing, or maybe it's just a me thing, but it was an opportunity and something I had to work on.
Yeah.
And I did work through, so I'm getting better, and my mentors now are also helping me with that too. So the guy that was helping me with my building, he kept telling me, he's like, you need containment. And I'm like, because I would get upset about a lot of different things, right? Which is normal for everyone. And you got to be able to control that anger.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's controlling you.
Yeah.
And he was right. And at first I didn't, I'm like, what do you mean by containment, right? What is this
Containment thing. Yeah, what
And
does
I'm
that
like,
mean?
It sounds so abstract to me.
Yeah.
And he's right, because when you're contained, you're able to think things through, and you can be more productive with what you need to do, right? So
I guess it's probably important too, because especially like even for example, like where I work, you probably work in a place that you said is dangerous, right? It's not like always going to be safe. So if you let your emotions get the best of you in that moment, you might not be thinking the best, and you might endanger somebody else,
absolutely,
or yourself.
Yeah, and you'll do things that are like you shouldn't be doing.
You shouldn't be doing it.
And because you're not thinking straight when basically the devil's taking over your mind when you're in anger, right? And you can't think straight, and he's gonna let you do what he wants you to do, right? Yeah. So if you can control that anger, and even today I had that feeling, right? But you have to control it, otherwise it'll ruin your entire day.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you're not good to nobody. Yeah. Right. So that was one of the things I learned, and it took me a long time to learn that, and I learned it by immersing myself in like opportunities with my building, and we'll get into that probably later on. But so I did leave that job, and it was actually really good. They gave me a really nice severance. They said for the next, I think it was 4 or 5 months, I was getting full benefits and like full wage, and it was like, but you don't have to come to work. You're good to go, and then at the end, then you're done. So I'm like, okay, so this will give me an opportunity to work on my real estate, which was stressing me out too, because we were doing renovations and we were doing all these different things, and it was new to us. We were still pretty young, me and my brother, and so we kept pushing with that. And it was time to start selling, because this was now 2008, and we started selling off all over as much property as we can.
How did you know it was the right time to do that? Because you even said that you started from single family homes, then to starting to thinking about commercial. How did you know? I think even Ori was talking about this too a little bit today. It's knowing like when to pivot. Okay. So how did you kind of know when to pivot from, okay, now the single family homes is good, but I need to start pivoting in towards commercial, or we need to start selling so that we can start planning to get into commercial.
Yeah.
So how did you know when to pivot?
Okay, so at the time we had about 5 properties in and around Edmonton, mostly like north, central, that kind of area. And when we bought our first property, we bought it for $32,000. So it was like we're talking small numbers. Our second property we ended up buying the year after for $23,000. And my dad acted as the bank for that one too. So the first 2 were super easy, and we got renters right away. We were 17 on the first one, and my dad even said, he goes, well, for those 5 months that you guys aren't 18, he goes, I'll double the rent. So we're like, wow, we're really good money for those few. At the time, it seemed like a lot. Today, in today's money, it's probably like $5 or $6 grand, right?
Yeah.
But then after that, we were on our own. But when we were 19, we bought another one, and we would go to try to get help from my dad, and he would help us solve any like the structural problems and stuff like that with the properties. So we had more confidence going in because we had someone help.
You had someone else, yeah.
But like as we accumulated all these properties, and they were making money, and they were causing grief in our lives as well, because we were also at that point we're like starting families, like we're getting married, and our life was changing, and to have to spend your part of your time working, and I was working shift work as well, and then to spend part of your time working on these real estate and doing renovations, and you have like 5 of them all over the place, and it's really hard to like life management, really difficult to do.
Yeah.
So real estate was like really booming, so we're like, it's time to sell. So we did it as like a financial thing, like we can get rid of stress, headache, and we could come into some money, and then we can do something else. It's time now. We got this extra. We have a bigger sum of money, a bigger pot that we could
do something else,
something bigger. And so we sold off a bunch. We didn't sell everything off. We sold off. I think we 3 in the first year, and the accountant's like, "Well, you got to stop because you're going to pay like a business tax. Like you're going to pay way more tax on this." And it's like, "Oh, I didn't know that. I thought it was just capital gains, right? Capital gains is the best tax you can pay. So
What is the capital gain?
a capital gains tax is like usually with like business, if you sell a business or if you're going to sell something like a property mainly, right? Like if we just talk specifically real estate, if you let's say you bought your building for $100,000, and it appreciates in value over 5 years, and if it's in your personal name and you sold it in Canada, then that you take that extra 100,000. You say you sell for 200,000. You take that extra 100,000. You can stick it in your pocket. You don't have to pay any tax on it because it's your personal residence.
Okay.
But if it's a revenue property, then
meaning that it's making you money.
It's making you money. It's like an investment.
Okay.
Right? So investment properties are taxed differently. So every year when you make your rent, you got to claim all your expenses and your rents and all that stuff. And if you sell the property, you got to claim what's called a capital gains tax. So in this case, it would be $100,000, right? But there's other things that accountants do that can change the number. They do depreciation, so that number can change depending on. So it's not as clear as I bought it for 100, I sold it for 100,000. It's not that simple.
Okay.
But that's why you always get a good accountant when you're doing real estate or any kind of business. So you get your 100,000. So in business or in real estate, when it's an investment property, you're going to take that 100,000, you split it in half. So 50% of it you get to keep.
Okay.
Of the gain. So
of the capital gains.
You get to put 50,000 in your pocket.
Yes.
The other 50,000 would be because it's in your personal name. It would be taxed to you personally. So it would get tacked on to whatever you made that year on your T4s or your other investments.
But that other half is strictly profit, pretty much.
Strictly goes in your pocket.
Goes in your pocket.
And
no taxes on that.
No taxes on that. And then the other one would be taxed at your whatever rate you fall into after that. So let's say you made 60,000, and then you made 20. Now you got, let's say you had the property, like for instance me, I owned it with my brother, and we made $100,000 in a gain. So the capital would be 50. So we'd each have to pay tax on $25,000.
Okay, because that's half of the 50.
It's
half
not the end of the world.
Okay.
And in my opinion, it is the best tax to pay because you're getting 50% off on your tax.
Yeah.
And then you can do your other tools,
Okay.
that accountants will help you reduce that amount. And then when you get into business, it's a little even better. They can do even more.
Okay.
Right. But you need a good accountant that is straight and narrow, right?
Okay.
And the rules always change, but generally speaking, that's what you got to do.
Okay.
And then, so we sold all these properties. We had some cash, and we're like, well, we don't want to sit on this cash. So what are we going to do? We're like, well, let's look into commercial. So we ended up buying, or we were looking for a while. We ended up buying this property in Fort Saskatchewan, and the tenants were Royal Bank of Canada, commercial lending, and then the other tenant was Carey Industrial Services.
Oh,
that was the company I worked for
already.
when I was working with that peroxide company, and we ended up buying this property. So the guy that owned Carey Industrial Services also owned the building. So we were buying it from him. And so he became also the tenant for a little while.
And did you know him from before?
I knew him from when I worked at Vince.
Okay.
So it was like, it's kind of like a coincidence almost. Like, how did this happen, right?
Do you think that made it easier to obtain the property because you knew him or no?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
But I think what made it easier is that we had the means to do it.
Yeah.
And we had the know-how, and we were ready for that next step. Now, commercial is not the same business as single-family residential. That is like, commercial is another level.
So what would you say is the difference between the two?
The difference between the two? So you can do, for instance, people do these fix and flips. And that was kind of essentially what we did. We bought a property. We held it for a while. We made, cash float on it for a bit. Then when it was time, we fixed them up and we flipped them. We tried to get maximize the amount we can get out of these properties. And it did work, right? And there's these people that go around and they just buy properties to fix and flip and sell right away, which it could be a risky business, right? Because you don't know what the market's going to do. And if you overpay for the property and you have to put too much renovation into it, because when you're doing a reno on a property, you open up a wall, you're opening up Pandora's box. You don't know what you're going to get, right? Yeah. So you think, it only costs us a few grand. No, that few grand will turn into 15,000 in a hurry, right? Especially today with the cost of materials and, labor and stuff. So you got to be really careful when you're doing fix and flips, in my opinion. You really got to do your research, and you cannot overpay. And there's some people, oh, it doesn't matter. You just, as long as you get into it, still don't want to overpay. Because you overpay, you're going to lose
money,
your
Okay.
investment, and then you're going to be forced to hold it, and then it's going to hurt you. And it happened to me.
Okay.
Yeah, like basically around this time.
Okay.
And it was with a personal property.
Oh. Okay.
So it was the personal property that we had it built. It was it was actually the second property me and my wife built, but it was the one where we wanted to raise our family. So we like, oh yeah, let's maybe overbuilt it, and it was a mistake. And it turned out to not be our best investment. It was in fact the worst.
But what did you learn from it?
I learned a lot because it actually helped me understand industrial hygiene.
Okay.
Because that property had problems with moisture, and in the air in that time, most of the builders, they were cutting corners. Many of the properties in the city of and many still do have problems with moisture, and there was mold issues and all that stuff.
Is there any way to combat that if you bought a property that has moisture issues, or
yes,
you want to
you get it inspected by an inspector,
Okay.
someone who understands. And I use an industrial hygienist.
Okay.
So because they're like scientists, they're experts in the field of asbestos, and you won't know what's asbestos. And what bothers me when someone says, "Oh yeah, that's asbestos," well, you should never say that's asbestos if you've never tested it, because you don't know. There's no way of knowing by looking at something what it is, right?
Yeah.
So you have to follow the proper steps to do it, your due diligence, to do it right. And due diligence is a big thing when you're doing real estate,
Okay.
and especially on the commercial side.
Okay.
And the big difference between commercial and residential is commercial is paper based. So you can buy a commercial property, and if you have no renters, you got zero cash flow coming in, no money coming in, and nothing. It really, to an investor, it's worthless, right? It's only worth what it's got some value. There's land value, and there's a structure on it, especially if it's got no work to do on it, because the opportunity exists for you to rent these things. Now with commercial, and we had a vacancy, so Carrying Dust Services, he was retiring. So he was moving out of the business, and that business was moving on somewhere else. So he sold it to somebody, and they took it somewhere else. So we had a vacancy, and a commercial vacancy can be a commercial vacancy for a very long, and we had it vacant for years. And I ended up renting it to a company, and it was just out of the blue. This guy shows up in a suit, and I'm like, "Oh, who's this guy?" And I was working as a safety. Maybe I might be jumping ahead here, but he's working as a safety. I was working already as a safety guy, and I had my consulting company.
Yeah.
And this guy comes and goes, "Yeah, we're looking for a place. We saw this ad," and I'm like, "Oh yeah, I'll show you." So he was impressed. He's like, "We only need it temporarily for like 6 months because we're building our plant just down the down the highway." And I'm like, "Okay, love to help you, right?" And then when I gave him my card, and again, this becomes that this was meant to be. So the guy looks at my card. He's like, "Oh, safety, right?" I was like, "Yeah, I'm a safety consultant, and that's what I do, right?" And he's like, this was a big company. This wasn't like
a small, yeah.
The company is here too. So the company's name is Coughley Fabricom.
Okay.
And they're big. They're not. And I never knew how big this was. There's just one guy comes. He had like an accent, like a German accent or Belgium accent. He's from Belgium, I think. And it was like kind of surreal, because he's like, "We want you to work for us as a consultant." And I'm like, "Oh, fantastic!" So I put in my bid, and he ended up taking the place. They rented it for 6 months from us, so now we had it rented. And this is kind of where this building, we were kind of done with it too. We were like, "Hey, we've learned our thing from here. We've improved the lease with the Royal Bank of Canada, and by improving the lease, we increased the rental rate on it."
So how do you?
That's how you increase the value.
How do you improve your lease?
That's through paper.
That's through paper. Okay.
So leases are like a whole you need a lawyer here to tell you exactly what you can do, and
Okay.
Commercial leases are different in the sense that they're not run by like in residential real estate. You have like the Alberta law that says, "Oh, you can't do this as a landlord," and then the tenants have to do this, and then there's all these rules and all that. So it's more an agreement thing when it's business. So like when,
Okay.
you know, so it's a little bit easier in that sense,
Okay.
but it's more paper, you know,
Okay.
paper driven. So if you can increase the rent, so you're increasing the value of your property, right? By increasing the rent, you've increased the value, because the banks look at it more favorably, because you can borrow more money against it, and you're making enough money to pay the bank and to pay all your utilities and all the other stuff, right?
Okay.
So commercial works in that way. So anything like, even with residential, so apartment buildings, same thing. It's a commercial building. It's a business. And this is where a lot of people kind of treat it too much like a single family home. It's not. It has got to be treated like a business. You go to my basement at my building, it would look like a business down there, right? It was like, you know, I did all the things that a business would do, and I put on all my hats when I'm doing that apartment. And that's how I was able to successfully turn it around. But yeah, so by increasing the leases, you got more value.
More value.
And-
Okay.
And a simple way to think of it is, you know, a landlord will raise a rent for $25. It doesn't seem like a lot to you, but if he's got, you know, 10 suites, that's $250. If he's got 20 suites, that's, you know, $500 extra per month, right? And the banks don't look at, oh yeah, it's $500 per month, it's only $500. No, they look at
Look at
it,
it the whole-
500 times 12, which is like $6,000 per year, times 25 years, because they're, or more, if you can amortize it over 35 years, is more. And they're like, we will borrow against that amount extra on top of what your building's already worth.
Okay. Okay.
And someone is willing to pay more, because then it just looks more favorable to the market, because your rents are higher, right? And the other thing you do in real estate is not only you increase the rents, and it's so minimal, 25, it would make a huge difference, is increase the efficiencies. So reduce the expenses on the building. Now, not only have you reduced expenses, you've increased the amount that it can produce.
From
The money saved is worth more than, it's his money
More-
earned, right?
more- yeah,
That's
money
where that
earned,
comes,
yeah.
like, now it's worth even more.
yeah.
So that's how I was able to turn my building around, was using that philosophy. It's a very simple philosophy. It's not like it's rocket science.
Okay.
And
So actually getting into your building now too. So your building complex that you have, when you first got that building complex, it didn't look like how it
no,
looked
it
how
did
it looked
not
now.
look like that.
So could you tell us kind of what was the process of getting that building complex, and
Yeah.
the process of when you said neighborhood terraining?
terrain. Okay, so